Shalom and welcome. My name is Pastor Paul Atina Omayo, and today I'd like us to talk about Halloween. This is the period. It's 2-3 days from now. It's usually celebrated on the last day of November. And from all the paintings, the cells outside there, the talk in schools among our children, this is the season, and Halloween is here. And the big question for us, especially those of us who are Christians, is should Christians celebrate Halloween? Some people say Halloween is just for fun. It's just a festival. It's harmless, Kids buying costumes and walking around collecting sweets and having a nice time on an evening when darkness is about to come. For those of us who are experiencing winter here, it's just fun. There's nothing about it. To some other people, oh, Halloween is dangerous. It's satanic, it's demon worship. It's associated to so many dark things which we don't understand and we don't want it. To other people, Halloween is just business, It is just making costumes, selling sweets, and a lot of merchandise that goes along with this festival. Some selling vegetables in the market and making festivals, music, and everything good for business. And to those of us who have children, the reality is that we will be pressured about Halloween, whether we like it or not. Because in schools, especially in Norway, they celebrate it. In the neighborhoods, they are celebrating it. The decorations, the sales are going on. And you can't hide. You can't go somewhere and hibernate and come out. If you are an adult, you don't care about it, it can work. But if you have children in your home or around you, definitely this is something we need to talk about because you can't run away from it. I'd like us to start to look a little bit about what is actually Halloween. I know most of us know something about it, have grown up with it, some of us. Some of us are new to it. Now we are in an information technology world and a lot of information on the internet, so you can go and read. And but sometimes, it becomes confusing because everybody's writing, everybody's putting information outside there. And sorting out this information can be a challenge. So I wanted to participate and give a little bit help. And first, let's look at the origins. Most of this information I also get from reading from very reliable sources. And one of my sources say that actually Halloween started about 2,000 years ago, as old as Jesus could be, if he was still living. And it was a festival of the Samhain by the Celtic people. And they used to do it actually to mark the end of summer in a way. So here they will gather the livestock and all the animals will be coming back from the summer grazing. And then this is the time for harvest. And people are gathering in all their harvest, their wheat. In short, they are preparing for winter. And this is the time actually they will build shelters for winter. During summer, it's warm, it's no hassle, trying to make thinking about housing, but at this time, then they will make all this. So it was a very busy period, and they made it kind of a festival. So many things are happening, so many preparations in terms of shelter, food, animals, and looking into the dark times that are coming in winter. But then this festival had also a religious angle to it. In this time, the Celtic people, they brought in fruits, and that's why some of us around us, you can see that People are using pumpkins as a sign of Halloween. And then they burnt these fruits and also they sacrificed to the gods. And they believed that this period was actually a magical time when the battle when battles were won, spells were cast, and the barrier between the natural and the spiritual realm was actually broken. So their belief was actually around this time, the spirit world was open. And the people, the living, could visit the spiritual world, speak to the dead, and ask them about the future. Because in their beliefs, they believe that the dead actually had secrets about the future. Talk about fortune telling, what is going to happen. And this period was kind of mixed with a lot of fear because you're coming from a very light, sunny, enjoyable summer. You're going into these dark days and cold days of winter. And so it was more of a psychological, spiritual preparation for winter. But these people actually also believed that actually the dead at this particular time of Halloween walked among the living. And it was very important that you will come in and, connect to them and ask for protection, ask about what is going to happen. So if you can see, it's mixed up. Actually, it had more of a natural festival season of preparation, but also there was a spiritual aspect to it. And this is common to all human beings. Human beings are basically spiritual, whether they like it or not. And whenever something major is happening, people will always look into the spiritual. And then later on, especially here in Europe, we know that Christianity became very popular. And some of these festivals actually were Christianized. And this is one of them. Halloween was Christianized. So there was an introduction of something we call the All Saints Day. This was the day to remember the dead. It was celebrated on 1st of November. Look at this. This is just the day after the Halloween evening. And on the All Saints Day, people sit down to remember their loved ones who have departed and in different ways. Others will do rituals, visit the cemeteries, talk to them. Others never believed in talking to the dead. They just sit around and have memorial services and just remember the good times, and that is it. And then later on, the 2nd of November, people started celebrating, All Souls Day. And kind of this was meant to replace Halloween, because many at that time believed Halloween was a pagan festival opening up into the spiritual world, and that was not very godly. But today, these things are mixed up. People take Halloween as a cultural festival, a break, especially for children, just having fun. And other people, as I said, they have commercialized it and they just see this is a time to make money. But I want us to ask ourselves, what does the Bible say about Halloween? Not so much. The Bible actually doesn't talk about Halloween, doesn't give anything, any name, which is near Halloween. But the Bible gives us a few principles which can help us as Christians to make decisions about this phenomenon. And this is what I'm going to go through very quickly. I hope you can follow me. The Bible talks about stay away from the occult and the occultic practices. If you read Leviticus 19, verse 31, it says, do not turn to mediums or seek spirits, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. And you can read Exodus 22:18, Leviticus 19:31, and Leviticus 26, 20, 27. And also, actually, if you read in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, chapter 8, chapter 13, and chapter 16, and which I encourage if you want to do a Bible study, especially during this Halloween time, these are some of the chapters in the Bible you can go and take time to read and reflect about them. In Acts, there is someone called Simon who used to do magic. And actually, when he saw Paul and his friends performing miracles, he came and was asking for this gift. And he was rebuked about it because the power of God cannot be mixed with magic. And in chapter 13, you read about Elmas. That was another magician. And in chapter 16, you read about a young girl who had a spirit and he had a power to tell fortunes. And Paul rebuked that spirit. And actually, when Paul said his testimony, though it was positive and promoting what Paul and the other missionaries were doing, he said that testimony, even if it's true, it cannot be accepted because this girl was doing fortune telling. So the Bible talks about us as Christians staying away from witchcraft, from sorcery, from casting of spells, from mediums, from magic, crystal balling, astrology, reading the stars, and all this stuff. It's not allowed according to the Bible, and there's enough evidence to do about this. So this period of Halloween mostly opens us up into this magic, witches, into the spiritual world, and it's good to know that that is not allowed in the Bible. Something else that we can learn around this period is about darkness. Halloween is usually celebrated in the evening and usually in the dark. And if you look at most of the costumes, they are black, and they have horns, they are funny, they're supposed to create a scare. And in some places, some people take it extreme. They go into darkness, they try to scare people. Some people, put out lights in their houses so that the house is dark in that evening. And there's something to do with darkness. If you read the book of Ephesians 6:22, the Bible says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against powers, against the world rulers of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavens." Satan and the demons are the rulers of darkness. And there is a reason that there are so many people are afraid of the dark, because darkness is a fearful thing, both physically and spiritually. And this is not something to be involved around and to take it for fun and just to flutter around with. Darkness is something that we should avoid. We are called to do things in the light. We ourselves as Christians, we are called to be the light of the world. And so I'm not saying that there's something wrong doing something in darkness, but if something is primarily associated with darkness, it cannot be done during the light, then there's a question mark about it. And another thing is about death. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 14 talks about, "Therefore, since the children share in flesh and blood, he likewise shared in their humanity, so that through death he could destroy the ones who hold the power of death, that is, the devil." Satan has had the power of death over people ever since the fall, and he uses it to control people through fear. Death is actually an enemy of God. 1 Corinthians 15:26 tells us so. It is not something to flutter around with. We know that Halloween is associated with vampires, with ghosts, with so many deadly, with with these skulls. And this concept is actually rooted in the reality of demons, because all these are figures of death. And if you go to the original, where actually Halloween started from, remember, they believed in associating with the dead, looking out for the dead people and speaking to them. Why will you want to flutter around with an enemy of God? Why will you want to flutter around with death and have costumes showing skulls and death and ghosts and vampires? And we know that actually death is a tool that the devil uses to punish humanity. And death one day will be defeated by God himself, because he's an enemy of God. And that is why some of these are important things to understand, even as we make decisions around Halloween. And the next one quickly is about fear. 2 Timothy 1:7, the Bible tells us that for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and self-control. Look at this. God does not give it a spirit of fear. God gives us power, love, and self-control. Fear is both a feeling and the reality where Satan dwells. It is one of his most effective means of spiritual warfare against us. When we use Halloween events, decorations, and costumes to cause and build the fear in other people, we are cooperating with the sworn enemy of God and God's people. So, even if we want to justify and rationalize the use of fear around Halloween, let's scare people so that people get used to fear. And that's one way of, I was talking to somebody who said me, you need to be scared so that you get used to fear. But from the spiritual aspect and what the Bible teaches about fear, fear is an enemy. And God does not want us to flat around with fear. He wants us to flat around with power, with love, and self-control. And then lastly, is about worldliness. The Bible in James 4:4 says, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. How is worldliness connected to Halloween? Costumes that glorify some of the world's heroes and the heroine can shape our values. When we wear t-shirts, with people's names and with words and something that we adore, it means that we are very proud and we support those things. Unless you're wearing the cloth because you don't have any other and it's just a piece of cloth to you. But people wear labels intentionally because they are proud of the people and of the organizations that they are pushing forward. And of course, when you're proud of something and you can even put it on your cloth, it means that actually the values that figures represent actually shape you. And it's important to think about this, that costumes, whether in Halloween or costumes in movies or TV characters, that represent anti-biblical values are inappropriate for believers and even the believers' children. Why will I allow my child to go with a costume of something that represents a value that is anti-Bible values or which is anti-God? We need to think about it because sometimes we do things without so much considerations. So all these Halloween costumes and whatever they are protruding and the kids are putting on, what do they actually represent? What values are they putting into our children? And if they are godly values, let's go ahead. If they are not godly values, they are about death. They are about fear. They are just about the spiritual world, which is ungodly. Then it's something to think about it. Of course, the bigger question now as I come to the conclusion is, what can I do on Halloween? In John chapter 17, verse 15 to 18, Jesus gives us an answer. Jesus prays for us, actually. He says, my prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. They are not of this world, even as I am not of it. Sanctify them by the truth, and your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. Jesus is simply saying that God will take care of us. So we don't need to be afraid. There are people who go around here, when it's Halloween or when there are other months of things that you're not very comfortable with as Christian. You go like the world is coming to an end. You want to run away and hide in your house and hide your children. Oh, keep calm. Jesus has already prayed for you. He's telling the Father, protect them from the evil one. So this is not the time to fear. This is a time to be confident that God has already interceded for us and God will protect us. And then in verse 16, Jesus goes on to say, they are not of this world as I am not of this world. This is important. Let us not just run and do things because everybody's doing it, because the children will question, because we are in this world, we are in this context, we are in this culture, everybody's doing it, let's do it. No, we are not out of this world. That's a reality, but we are not part of this world. So sometimes we need to stand and swim against the current and say, I'll not do everything because everybody's doing it. I'll not do it because this is the context I find myself in. I'll be the one to stand out. And it needs courage to do that. And where does the courage come from? Verse 17, sanctify them by the truth. Set them apart. What will set us apart is the truth of the Bible. It's good to be part of society and participate in what people are doing, but what can help us to know what to participate in and what not to participate in is actually the truth as laid out in the Bible. That's what sanctifies, that's what sets us apart from the world. And then lastly, verse 18, Jesus says, as you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. Jesus is simply saying, let's take Halloween head on. This is an opportunity to go into the world. This is an opportunity to present the gospel. This is the opportunity to present the message of Jesus, the message of the Bible. Let us take the lead. We can sponsor Halloween alternative events. You know, let's come up with creative ideas on how to allow our kids to have fun, but of course with the boundaries, and give a positive message and not what the original message of Halloween is all about. Fear, death. Let's talk about the power of God. Let us talk about, instead of fear, let's talk about faith, Let's do something. Let's take control in your neighborhood, among your children. This is an opportunity to talk about the spiritual world because everybody's now open to Halloween and open to the spiritual world. This is a good thing. Talk about death to your children. Talk about fear to your children. Organize Halloween fest in your house. And instead of putting out the lights and scaring the children, dictate what kind of costumes you want them to come with and take that opportunity to give them sweets and talk about death, talk about fear, talk about faith. Let's give stories of comfort rather than the messages that are terrorizing and giving them fear. This is an opportunity. And that's why Jesus is saying here in John 17:18, that I have sent them into the world. Let us seize this moment and use it for the positive. Let's talk about Jesus, who is the answer. This was just my sharing for us today, and I hope that I've given you a few points to think about and open up your reflection on how you are going to approach or how you are celebrating this Halloween. Always remember, we are not of this world, but we are in this world. How can we positively engage? So this is Pastor Paul Atino Mayo, and I just want to welcome you. For more of this, you're welcome to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Paul Atina Omayo and subscribe and follow me up. I'll be making some sharing on some other topics, and you can follow me up and support my ministry. Otherwise, God bless you. And as you go into this Halloween, go with the power of God. Go with the love of God. Go with self-control. Know that Jesus has already prayed for you. Don't fear, but let faith prevail. God bless you.